In the bustling kitchen of an upscale Manhattan restaurant, a talented Venezuelan chef faces her worst nightmare. The new manager towers over her, spitting words of hate and prejudice while other employees watch in stunned silence. The chef's hands tremble as she grips her knife, fighting back tears. But what the manager doesn't know is that tonight's special guest isn't just here for dinner. He's been watching everything unfold from his quiet corner table. And when Keanu Reeves finally stands up, the entire restaurant will never be the same. Before this story continues, tell us where you're watching from, because tomorrow we have another powerful story that will change how you see the world. The copper pots gleamed under the bright kitchen lights of La Maison d'Or, Manhattan's newest five-star sensation. Steam rose from bubbling sauces as Sofia Ramirez moved with practiced precision, her chef's whites pristine despite the controlled chaos around her. The aroma of perfectly seared scallops filled the air, a testament to the skills she'd spent years perfecting in her grandmother's kitchen in Caracas before coming to America. The stainless steel doors swung open with a bang. Jennifer Crawford strode in, her stilettos clicking against the tile floor, her designer blazer a stark contrast to the traditional chef's uniform surrounding her. As the newly promoted restaurant manager, she carried herself with an air of superiority that seemed to grow with each passing day. Her lip curled slightly as she passed Sofia's station, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. Sofia felt her shoulders tense but kept her focus on the delicate sauce she was preparing. 3 years of culinary school in Venezuela, 2 more years of specialized training, and countless nights perfecting her craft had earned her this position in one of New York's most prestigious kitchens. She wouldn't let anyone shake that confidence. The kitchen hummed with activity as the dinner service approached. Line cooks called out orders, servers rushed in and out, and through it all, Sofia maintained her composure. But Jennifer's presence lingered like a shadow, her scrutiny following Sofia's every move. Other staff members exchanged knowing glances. They'd all witnessed the mounting tension over the past weeks. Near the pass, a young server named Mike adjusted his tie, watching the scene unfold. He'd seen how Jennifer treated Sofia differently from the other chefs, how she'd check Sofia's stations twice as often, how she'd make comments about maintaining standards whenever Sofia was within earshot. But like everyone else, he remained silent, afraid of losing his own position in this prestigious establishment. The restaurant's dining room buzzed with the city's elite, investment bankers, socialites, and the occasional celebrity seeking the next culinary hotspot. None of them knew about the storm brewing behind the kitchen doors. None of them saw how Jennifer's fingers drummed impatiently on her clipboard as she watched Sofia plate another perfect dish, her eyes narrowing with each compliment that came back from satisfied customers. As the evening service began in earnest, Sofia caught her reflection in one of the polished steel surfaces. Her father's words echoed in her mind, "Mira hacia adelante, nunca hacia abajo." Look forward, never down. She straightened her back and continued working, unaware that this night would test that resolve in ways she never imagined. Near the bar, a figure sat quietly, observing everything with careful attention, his presence barely noticed among the evening crowd. The evening progressed like a slowly tightening spring. Jennifer hovered near Sofia's station, her presence a constant disruption to the kitchen's natural rhythm. Every few minutes, she'd lean over Sofia's shoulder, inspecting each dish with exaggerated care, her expensive perfume cutting through the aromatic seasonings of Sofia's carefully crafted sauces. "The presentation needs to be perfect," Jennifer announced, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. She gestured at a plate of perfectly seared sea bass. "Our customers pay top dollar. They expect—" She paused, her lips curling into a slight smirk. "Professional standards." The emphasis on professional carried a weight that made several line cooks exchange uncomfortable glances. Sofia's hands remained steady as she reached for fresh herbs, but her chest tightened with each breath. She remembered her first day in New York, standing in line at immigration, clutching her culinary school certificates and recommendations. The pride in her mother's voice during their last phone call. "Mi hija, you're going to show them what Venezuelan cuisine really means." Now, those dreams felt like they were balancing on a knife's edge. Jennifer's campaign of subtle undermining had started small. First, it was accidentally mislabeling Sofia's prep work. Then came the constant remarks about simple English instructions, whenever Sofia asked for clarification on new menu items. The other staff noticed, but their sympathetic glances always fell away when Jennifer turned her attention their way. At the bar, the quiet observer in the corner sipped his water, his eyes occasionally drifting toward the kitchen's display window. He watched as Jennifer moved between tables, her smile perfect and practiced when addressing customers, then morphing into something harder when she returned to the kitchen. The pressure peaked when a food critic from the New York Times arrived unannounced. Sofia was preparing her signature dish, a modern take on traditional Venezuelan cachapa with butter-poached lobster. Jennifer materialized at her station, arms crossed. "Perhaps something more conventional," she suggested, her tone dripping with condescension. "We wouldn't want to confuse our sophisticated clientele." Sofia felt her face flush. 3 years of perfecting this recipe, of blending her heritage with classical techniques, reducing to this moment of barely veiled prejudice. Her knife paused over the fresh herbs, memories flooding back. Her grandmother teaching her to make the perfect corn cake, the years of study, the late nights practicing French techniques while working as a dishwasher to pay for her visa application. Near the pass, Mike the server fidgeted with his order pad. He'd tasted Sofia's cooking during staff meals. It was the highlight of everyone's shift. He opened his mouth to speak up, but Jennifer's sharp glance in his direction made him shrink back. His rent was due next week. He couldn't risk his job, not in this economy. The quiet man at the bar turned slightly, his attention caught by the rising tension. His presence remained unobtrusive, but his eyes narrowed as he observed Jennifer's behavior with increasing interest. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then returned to his careful observation. Sofia took a deep breath and continued plating her dish. Her movements were precise, each element placed with the care of an artist. She wouldn't let Jennifer's prejudice dim her passion. The plates moved toward the pass, each one a testament to her skill and heritage. But Jennifer wasn't finished. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that carried just far enough for nearby staff to hear. "You should be grateful we even gave you a chance here. There are plenty of real American chefs who'd love this position." The words hung in the air like smoke, choking the atmosphere of the already tense kitchen. Sofia's knuckles whitened around her knife handle, but she kept working. In the dining room, the man in the corner slowly set down his water glass, his expression hardening as he watched Jennifer return to her office, satisfied with the seeds of doubt she'd planted. The breaking point came during the peak of dinner service. The kitchen moved like a well-oiled machine, tickets flowing, plates leaving the pass in perfect succession. Sofia stood at her station, completing the final touches on the food critic's entree. Her hands moved with practiced precision, each movement deliberate and sure. Jennifer burst through the kitchen doors, her face flushed with barely contained anger. The critic's appetizer had just returned, not because of any flaw, but because he wanted to try a different dish. For Jennifer, this was the excuse she'd been waiting for. She stormed toward Sofia's station, her heels striking the tile like hammer blows. The kitchen's natural rhythm faltered, conversations dying mid-sentence. Even the sound of sizzling pans seemed to quiet as Jennifer reached Sofia's workspace. "What did you do?" Jennifer's voice cut through the kitchen's ambient noise. She held up the perfectly plated appetizer like evidence in a trial. "This is unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable." Sofia continued plating the critic's new dish, her movements steady despite the trembling she felt inside. The guest simply changed his mind. The dish was prepared exactly to specification. Jennifer's laugh was sharp, meant to cut. "Specification? You think you understand our specifications?" She stepped closer, invading Sofia's personal space. "Maybe if you spent more time learning proper technique instead of pushing your ethnic food dash." The word ethnic came out like something dirty, something beneath the restaurant standards. A few gasps echoed from the line cooks. Near the pass, Mike the server froze, order pad clutched in his hands. Through the kitchen window, several diners had started to notice the commotion, their conversations quieting as they turned to watch. Sofia straightened her spine, remembering her father's words about dignity. "I trained at Le Cordon Bleu in Caracas. My techniques are daft." "Caracas?" Jennifer's voice rose, hitting a pitch that made everyone wince. "You think some cooking school in Venezuela compares to real culinary training?" She gestured wildly at the kitchen. "This is a premium establishment. Our customers expect excellence, not street food dressed up with fancy plating." The quiet observer at the bar set down his glass. His movement was subtle, but purposeful. A server noticed him standing, then quickly looked away, sensing something important was about to happen. Sofia's hands stilled over her work. The kitchen had gone completely silent now, the only sound the low hum of the ventilation system. She could feel every eye on her, waiting to see how she would respond. the weight of the moment pressed down like a physical force. "I earned my place here," Sophia said, her voice quiet but firm. "My food speaks for itself." Jennifer stepped even closer, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "Your food? Your food is a joke. You know what's really happening here? You're taking a job from a qualified American chef. Someone who actually belongs here. Someone who does. That's enough." The voice came from behind them, calm but carrying an authority that made Jennifer's words die in her throat. But Jennifer wasn't finished. She whirled around, ready to confront whoever dared interrupt her. "This is a private matter between me and my subordinate. Who do you think you dash?" The words caught in her throat as she found herself face to face with the man from the bar. He stood there in his simple black shirt and worn leather jacket, his presence somehow filling the entire kitchen. A few diners had their phones out now, recording what was happening. Someone whispered, "Is that?" Jennifer's face went through a rapid series of expressions. Anger, confusion, dawning recognition, and finally, fear. Because standing before her wasn't just any customer. It was Keanu Reeves, and his expression made it clear he'd seen and heard everything. The kitchen remained frozen in time, the tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Sophia's hands gripped the edge of her station, her knuckles white. Every person in that kitchen knew they were witnessing something momentous, something that would change everything. Through the kitchen windows, more phones had appeared, their camera lenses capturing every second. The quiet murmur of the dining room had transformed into an anticipatory hush. Jennifer's face had lost all color, but she still tried to maintain her composure, not fully understanding just how completely her world was about to change. Keanu Reeves stood in the center of the kitchen, his presence commanding attention without effort. His eyes moved from Jennifer to Sophia, then back to Jennifer. The silence stretched, heavy with anticipation. Jennifer's perfectly manicured hands fidgeted with her blazer, her previous confidence evaporating under his steady gaze. "I've been sitting at that bar for 2 hours," Keanu began, his voice low but carrying to every corner of the kitchen. "I watched you serve others with a smile, then turn around and treat this talented chef like she's beneath you." He took a step forward, and Jennifer instinctively stepped back. "I've seen enough." Jennifer's face flushed as she attempted to regain control of the situation. "Mr. Reeves, I had no idea you were here tonight. I assure you, this is just a minor workplace disagreement. Perhaps we could discuss this in my office dash." "No." The word wasn't loud, but it cut through her excuses like a knife. "We'll discuss it right here, where you chose to humiliate a member of your staff." He gestured toward Sophia's station. "Do you know what I saw while I was sitting there? I saw excellence. I saw passion. I saw someone putting their heart into every dish they created." The phones recording the scene had multiplied. Through the kitchen windows, diners pressed closer, drawn to the unfolding drama. Someone whispered, "Is he really the owner?" Jennifer's eyes widened at the whisper. "Owner." Her voice cracked on the word. Keanu reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, placing it deliberately on the steel countertop. Keanu Reeves, majority stakeholder, Golden Gate Restaurant Group. The card gleamed under the kitchen lights. "We acquired this restaurant last month. I make it a point to visit our properties personally, observe how they're really run." The color drained from Jennifer's face as the implications sank in. Her hands began to shake. "Mr. Reeves, please, if I had known Daff. If you had known who I was, you would have behaved differently?" His voice carried a sharp edge now. "That's exactly the problem. Respect isn't something you reserve for people you think are important. It's something you give to everyone." Sophia stood at her station, watching the scene unfold. Her hands had stopped trembling, replaced by a strange calm as she witnessed justice being served in real time. "The food critic you're so concerned about?" Keanu continued. He changed his order because he wanted to try more of Sophia's dishes. He recognized her talent, her unique vision. Something you were too blinded by prejudice to see. Jennifer's attempt at a professional smile looked more like a grimace. "I only wanted to maintain our standards dash." "Standards?" Keanu's eyebrow raised. "Let's talk about standards." Sophia trained at one of South America's most prestigious culinary schools. She's worked in kitchens across 3 continents. She brings a perspective and talent that enhances everything about this restaurant. He paused, letting his words sink in. The only person falling below standards here is you. The kitchen staff had begun to move closer, drawn to the scene like moths to a flame. Mike the server had his phone out now too, no longer afraid to document what was happening. "Mr. Reeves," Jennifer tried one last time, her voice small. "I can explain that." "There's nothing to explain." He turned to address the entire kitchen. Discrimination has no place in any workplace, especially not in a kitchen. Kitchens are where cultures meet, where traditions blend, where new ideas are born. He looked back at Jennifer. "If you can't understand that, you're in the wrong industry." Jennifer's shoulders slumped as the full weight of her actions, and their consequences, crashed down on her. The phones kept recording, capturing every moment of her humiliation, just as she had tried to humiliate Sophia. Keanu turned to Sophia, his expression softening. "I apologize that you had to endure this. It won't happen again." He reached into his jacket again, pulling out another card. "I'd like to discuss your vision for this kitchen. As head chef." A collective gasp rippled through the kitchen. Sophia's eyes widened as she accepted the card with slightly trembling hands. Jennifer seemed to shrink even further, the final blow to her authority delivered with quiet dignity. "As for you," Keanu addressed Jennifer again, "I suggest you use this as a learning opportunity. The world is changing. Those who can't change with it, who can't see the value in different perspectives and experiences, will be left behind." The kitchen erupted in applause, starting softly then building to a crescendo. Through the windows, diners joined in, the sound filling every corner of the restaurant. Jennifer stood alone in the center of it all, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. The videos spread across social media within hours. The hashtag La Maison d'Or trended as thousands shared and commented on the confrontation. People who had experienced similar discrimination in their workplaces began sharing their own stories, creating a wave of solidarity that stretched far beyond the restaurant's walls. Inside La Maison d'Or, the atmosphere had transformed. The kitchen staff moved with renewed energy, pride replacing the tension that had suffocated them for so long. Sophia stood at her station, now commanding a different kind of attention. Line cooks who had previously avoided eye contact now sought her guidance, eager to learn from the woman Keanu Reeves himself had recognized. Jennifer had left the restaurant immediately after the confrontation, her high heels no longer clicking against the floor with their usual authority. Her office door remained closed, personal items still inside, a silent testament to how quickly fortunes could change. Security had quietly escorted her out, her access cards deactivated. Her reign of discrimination ended in a single evening. The Food Critic's review appeared online the next morning. He praised the revolutionary fusion of Venezuelan and French techniques, specifically mentioning Sophia's cachapa with butter-poached lobster. The article ended with a pointed observation about the changing face of fine dining and the importance of diverse voices in culinary innovation. Sophia's phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. Messages from fellow immigrants in the restaurant industry thanking her for standing strong. Comments from young culinary students saying she inspired them to pursue their dreams despite the obstacles. Even a few job offers from other prestigious restaurants, though those didn't matter anymore. She had already accepted Keanu's offer of the head chef position. Mike, the server who had recorded everything, found his video going viral. In interviews, he expressed regret for not speaking up sooner but promised to never stay silent in the face of discrimination again. His video caption read, "Sometimes heroes wear leather jackets instead of capes." Keanu teaches kindness. The restaurant's reservation line was flooded. People weren't just booking tables. They were specifically requesting to try Sophia's menu. The fusion dishes she had been discouraged from creating were now the most sought-after items. Regular customers who had witnessed the confrontation returned, not just for the food but to congratulate Sophia personally. As Sophia prepared for her first official day as head chef, she found a handwritten note on her station. "Your grandmother's recipes deserve to be shared with the world. Thank you for staying true to yourself." Next to it sat a small framed photo of her family back in Caracas, a gift from the man who had changed everything with a simple act of standing up for what was right. The kitchen now carried a different energy. Where fear and prejudice had once ruled, there was now an atmosphere of creativity and respect. Sophia looked around at her team, seeing not just co-workers but a family united by their passion for food and their commitment to making the kitchen a place where everyone's voice mattered. 3 months after the confrontation, La Maison d'Or had become a different restaurant entirely. Under Sophia's leadership, The menu transformed into a celebration of cultural fusion. Her Venezuelan French creations earned the restaurant its first Michelin star, with critics praising the boldly authentic vision that brought together different culinary worlds. The kitchen staff doubled in size, with Sophia making it a point to hire talented chefs from diverse backgrounds. The sounds of different languages mingled with the clatter of pots and pans: Spanish, French, Mandarin, Arabic, creating a symphony of cultural exchange. Each chef was encouraged to bring their heritage into their cooking, turning the kitchen into an incubator of culinary innovation. Jennifer's story took an unexpected turn. After weeks of silence, she appeared in a viral video of her own. Sitting in her living room, makeup-free and visibly humbled, she addressed her actions directly. "I became the very thing I never thought I was," she admitted, her voice carrying the weight of genuine reflection. "It took losing everything to realize how wrong I had been." The video wasn't just an apology. It was a confession of how bias can blind people to their own prejudices. Jennifer shared how she had enrolled in diversity and inclusion courses, volunteering at immigrant advocacy organizations, and slowly learning to confront her own internalized prejudices. Her journey from villain to student of empathy resonated with thousands who recognized their own potential for both prejudice and growth. Sophia's promotion sparked a wave of change across the Golden Gate Restaurant Group. Keanu Reeves implemented new policies requiring anti-discrimination training in all their properties. More importantly, the group established a mentorship program for immigrant culinary professionals, with Sophia as one of the lead advisors. The program, named Flavors Without Borders, provided opportunities for talented chefs to showcase their cultural heritage in high-end restaurants. The original confrontation video became required viewing in culinary schools, sparking discussions about workplace culture and the importance of standing up against discrimination. Students studied not just cooking techniques but also the responsibility of creating inclusive kitchen environments. Sophia began receiving invitations to speak at culinary institutes, sharing her story and inspiring a new generation of chefs to embrace their authentic voices. Mike, the server who recorded the video, found his own path to growth. Inspired by the change he witnessed, he enrolled in culinary school while continuing to work at La Maison d'Or. Sophia took him under her wing, teaching him the importance of not just cooking with skill but leading with compassion. One evening, as the kitchen prepared for service, Sophia received a surprise visit. Her parents, flown in secretly by Keanu, walked through the kitchen doors. Her mother's eyes filled with tears as she saw her daughter commanding the prestigious kitchen with confidence and grace. The entire staff gathered as Sophia's grandmother taught them her secret cachapa recipe, the same one that had once been dismissed as too ethnic for the restaurant. The transformation extended beyond the kitchen walls. Regular customers noticed the change in atmosphere, the genuine warmth that had replaced the stiff formality. The restaurant became known not just for its exceptional food but for its culture of respect and inclusion. Other restaurants in the city began to follow suit, recognizing that diversity in the kitchen led to innovation on the plate. Sophia often paused during busy services to take in the scene around her, young chefs confidently sharing their cultural techniques, servers proudly explaining the heritage behind each dish, and a kitchen that hummed with the energy of genuine collaboration. The fear and tension that had once filled these walls had been replaced by something far more powerful: the strength that comes from embracing differences and celebrating authenticity. 1 year after the incident, Keanu Reeves returned to La Maison d'Or. He sat at the same bar spot, observing a kitchen that had become a model of excellence and inclusion. As service wound down, he asked Sophia to join him for a conversation that would be shared across social media, reaching millions who needed to hear its message. "Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply refuse to be a bystander," Keanu reflected, his voice carrying the same quiet authority that had stopped Jennifer's tirade that night. Every day, in kitchens, offices, and shops across the world, someone faces what Sophia faced. They're told they don't belong, that their differences make them less valuable. Sophia nodded, thinking of all the messages she'd received from others who had lived through similar experiences. The hardest part wasn't the insults, she shared. It was seeing everyone stay silent, thinking their voices didn't matter enough to make a difference. The restaurant had closed for the evening, but the staff gathered around, drawn to the conversation. Mike, now a sous chef, stood nearby, remembering his own transformation from silent observer to active advocate. "Change doesn't always need a celebrity," Keanu continued. "It needs people willing to recognize wrong and stand against it. Sometimes that means risking comfort, risking status, risking the easy path of looking away." Sophia looked around at her kitchen team, at the diversity that now filled these walls. When someone stands up, it gives others permission to stand up too. One voice becomes many. Fear becomes courage. Silence becomes action. The video of their conversation spread rapidly online, but this time it wasn't about drama or confrontation. It was about the quiet power of choosing to act, of refusing to let prejudice go unchallenged. The world changes one kitchen at a time, one office at a time, one moment at a time, Keanu concluded. Each time someone chooses to speak instead of staying silent, to act instead of turning away, they create ripples that touch lives they'll never even know about. Sophia's final words resonated deeply with viewers. My grandmother always told me that a kitchen is where people come together, where differences blend into something beautiful. Now I understand she wasn't just talking about food. As the video ended, a simple message appeared on screen. When we stay silent in the face of discrimination, we become part of the problem. When we speak up, we become part of the solution. The story of La Maison d'Or became more than just another viral moment. It became a reminder that change doesn't always require grand gestures or famous faces. Sometimes it just requires one person willing to say enough. One person willing to stand up. One person willing to believe that every voice matters, every person belongs, and every act of courage counts. The next time you witness injustice, remember, someone is watching. Not necessarily a celebrity in disguise, but someone who needs to know they're not alone. Someone who needs to see that standing up is possible. Someone who needs to believe that change can begin with a single voice saying no to discrimination. What will you do when that moment comes? Because it will come. And when it does, remember Sophia's kitchen, remember Jennifer's transformation, and remember that the power to change the world often starts with the simple courage to speak up when others stay silent.